Good evening, everyone. It's Wednesday night, 7 o'clock. Time for Zoom into Wine. We are live on Facebook as well, and we thank everybody for joining us for this spectacular journey tonight. We're going to be tasting some great wines of Burgundy. And for those of you that are at home, maybe you got your tasting kit in the mail. I'm going to be opening up mine, tasting the wines with you, covering the topic of Burgundy this evening. I'm not sure if I can ask. I want to make sure I can see everybody. But can I see a show of hands? How many of you have been to Burgundy? Very good. I just was able to visit there in April, and uh, we used to work for the importer of Louis Jadot, so I used to go there quite often to visit the vineyards and a couple of different producers, but really didn't get a chance to visit many of the producers while I was working at Jadot. But since then, I've been going back every 4 or 5 years and getting my Burgundy on. I love it, and I've always told people I've projected it into the future that I would, as an old guy, I'd love to retire in the town of Beaune and live there, little walking stick, little baguette in the other hand, and go buy my little wheel of cheese and take long, brisk walks and drink lots of great Burgundy into my later years. So that's what I'm projecting for myself. Let's see if that's what we have in store for us. But I there's wines all over the world that I love. And in fact, Burgundy isn't even necessarily my favorite wine, but it's always a wine that impresses me. It's intellectual. It's really a study of not just wine, but history, certainly terroir. And what I love about it is the French are just so focused on quality and keeping it classic, and there's very slow change there. Innovation, sure, but and the wines are better than ever. But Burgundians have worked together to really kind of unify behind the idea of Burgundy. Some of the wines are just so small, and it's really hard to compare Burgundy to almost any other place. I always use the example of Bordeaux. We're aware of a few of the famous Bordeaux. Those famous Bordeaux's, the big names, the Moutons, the Lafitte's, the Margots, they're great wines, but they can make a lot of them. They have a huge piece of property, and really their top wines are selections of very large harvests. Whereas in Burgundy, they may make 50 cases of a wine. Now, at Louis Jadot, a very significant producer of they made lots of Puy-Fusset and they made lots of Beaujolais, and they did those in separate winemaking facilities. And it's not all crammed into the same winery, and it's not just the direction of one winemaker. So in Beaune, Jadot has one of the most amazing winemaking facilities, but we made 163 wines. About half of them were white, half of them were red, and some of them were, again, 50 cases. I think, a couple of larger productions, but in general, most of them were two, three, four, 500 cases. And Jadot was able to use their marketing reach, and some places in the world only got the one wine, and some place else got the other one. And so they did it in a really unique way. And that really was a fun thing to be a part of. And while we're not tasting Jadot tonight, I can't mention Burgundy without giving a prop to Jadot because they do it so well, and they're very committed to quality. And they really their wines are compared to all the greats. So it's really was a phenomenal place to get my education and my appreciation of the topic. We're going to go into our PowerPoint now and get that first wine going on. I call this Big on Burgundy because we're going to go two whites, four reds. I think there's something in here for everyone. I think the journey is that's what another great thing about Burgundy. There's different styles, there's different ideas, there's different sites, each carrying a different demand, different price point, that kind of stuff. So let's start off where we should. I guess, in Burgundy, sometimes they actually start off with the red wines. I just want to tell you that. And it did come to my mind, maybe we should do what they do in Burgundy. They taste you on the reds first, and then they finish with the whites. But that's always such a pain on the glassware. And if you're not accustomed to doing that, you might be like, I don't get why we do that. But oh, so I'm doing it our traditional way, whites first, red second. And we're going to start off with the ultimate white, crispy white wine of Burgundy that is from Chablis. And this wine alone may be why some of you are here tonight. This is a really respected Chablis. It's a very high quality standard. I'm very thrilled that I was given a pretty sizable allocation of this wine. And I love it. Chablis is a very unique site. We'll talk all night about the Côte de Beaune, the Côte de Nuit, and the Côte d'Or wines, because all the wines that we're tasting today are within the Côte d'Or and with the exception of Chablis. Chablis is like an island up to the north of Dijon, and the monks found Chablis and looked down on those soils and saw seashells, and they knew it was something special, and they identified that area as basically the bottom of the ocean where it all kind of came together, and there was a lot of lethal movements and stuff, and I could just see like some mountain, some flat land at the bottom of the ocean all of a sudden was turned on its end, and all of the topsoil washed down into what is now Chablis. It's so dense and rich in fossils and in limestone there, and it just makes a lot of sense. There are some magic wines. This is in the top 10 producers, and there are some that are quite dear, brands like Ravenel and Davicet, which we have a couple of on the website, but I might have like one bottle of Ravenel and one each of different Davicet wines on our website because they spoon them out. I think my allocation is bottle, one bottle. There's a nice look down at the soils, looking down into the vineyards. And Chablis is really unique in that they only make the Chardonnay wine. That's it. There is no red Chablis. There's no rosé in Chablis. It's only the white wine. And what they do to celebrate those soils is they focus on freshness, keeping the oak very limited. And in general, what we call the AOC wine, Chablis, the appellation uh, of origin control, AOC, Chablis, the greater area. That wine, like, is what we're tasting here. This wine almost never sees wood. It's pure stainless steel, maybe some concrete, but very rarely does a producer introduce much wood. You might have a producer decide to add one barrel or something just to give it a little oomph, but most of the time it's just in the stainless steel with the lees and stirring some fine lees. This production 14 to 20 months. You're looking at the winemaker. She took over for her late husband, and has been doing a magnificent job. The region of Chablis has kind of gotten behind her. And to tell you, there is something about pricing in Burgundy. You kind of get what you pay for. There are bottles of basic Chablis. I've got one on my website today. I just brought it in from 2023, 1895. AOC Chablis. Nice. A nice bottle of wine. This is so much different. This is so much more elevated. This is and the reputation of the brand kind of leads you to say, "Whoa, this is what I'm expecting." So there's a pretty broad swath of pricing in Chablis, and basically AOC Chablis, $40 would be a lot for an AOC Chablis. But for Domaine Moreau-Naudet, it is up from here. I mean, my price is aggressive. I think I saw 75 on the internet for the same bottle of wine. I was in Japan a few months back, and this is the type of wine I love with Japanese food. Went to a restaurant. This wine's, $150 on a wine list, very commonly. And so this is a great Chablis. I want to taste it with you now, get your feedback, and see what you think. I swirl it around. The nose is super restrained, and you smell stone. And the fruit is just like chiseled layers of stoniness, some saltiness, a little bit of that sea floor influence, that little swath of salty air that you can smell in the nose, and a very crispy green apple. My little $19 Chablis that I put on the website today, clean, bright, fun, um, perfect for a non-serious moment. This is a bottle of wine. This one here is one that you could take out to a really serious dinner. Uh, your sommelier friends would be very impressed with it. It is dynamic. As I'm sitting here, I've tasted it. That the energy of this wine is very compact. It's just leaves the palate super almost erased. It's just like everything I tasted today, and I tasted some weird stuff. Not just wine, but I was doing some different tasting. I had some cognac today for lunch. The last time I had cognac, I can't remember. No, I love cognac, but it was a rare treat to be able to taste some cognac. But this wine just really is optimal. The classic pairing here, oysters, the uh, the the opportunities with a great sushi meal. We have just right down the street. I could walk to a classic little sushi bar in downtown LA called Sushi Gen, and it is just a optimal little classic spot if you're ever in downtown LA for sushi. My favorite restaurant in LA right now is a restaurant called Yes, Yess. Japanese chef, worked in a Michelin star in London, also in Japan, but came here to LA, opened up this beautiful restaurant, and it's so not a sushi bar. It is a Japanese, like, high cuisine. It's got a lot of other influences, but he's all about the freshest ingredients, changes the menu like every week. Kent, someday I'm going to do a dinner there so we can get you there. Thomas, I always threaten you to get on a plane and come and join us for a dinner.
Why not? Hey, Ian, this is really good.
Mm. I,
Superb wine.
so
Still to
beautiful.
start with.
Yeah,
You don't want any
don't
place to
want
go from here, though.
yeah,
Yeah.
it is it
It's
is
like
challenging.
batting Otani
Oh,
first, right?
it's
There you
it's
go.
that's right. Lead off.
Yeah.
It's lead off. I'm gonna put the rest of that back in the jar. See you later. All right, let's move into wine number two. Any other comments, guys? They're welcome to chat it up too, but I'm 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 running solo tonight. We got a pretty big group here tonight. We got
I had
about
a, excuse
22
me,
of
had a
us.
burst of lime.
Oh yeah, Kent. Almost like lime zest or lemon zest.
Yes,
It's like a perfume. Mm.
yes.
And I love it almost like makes my hair stand up, thinking about the energy on that thing. It's just so cleansing. And I love that idea of smelling that limestone, that chalkiness, that element there. It's in there.
Ian, I asked a dumb question, but I really thought the label was cool, but I couldn't tell what they were holding between. Was it a grape or it's too was too small for me to see.
Yeah, I do think that that's a grape. I don't know the answer though. They could tell me it's like a fossil or something like that too.
Okay.
But yeah, the label is cool. It's a little hand reaching out of the vineyard.
Yeah.
That's true to the spirit there too. That winemakers in Burgundy that we're going to taste tonight, they are all about propping up what is there and not making it into something else. It is all about experiencing that sense of place. They don't call themselves winemakers. In fact, they call themselves wine grower, wine
Mm.
producer. But the idea is that they're the protector of the information, and that's the spirit that they make the wines. It's really kind of a different mentality. Now, I'm not wanting to let anybody down in any way because we did start off with the big hitter in the leadoff position, but we've got a lot of great wines tonight. We're going to get into some. These are everything in my stores stuff I believe in. Sometimes it's a price point story, sometimes it's just a quality for price story, and then you get the reputational wines that everybody wishes they could drink every day, and those are throughout the store. You guys are all part of this Zoom community that we've been building for years, and we continue. We're building into 25. Today we opened up our Zoom into Wine membership. If you'll go to our Zoom into Wine website, you'll see the membership opportunity. There's different levels. You can get in on the basic membership at $60 for the year. That means that every week we'll send you the invite to come and join us on the link, whether you have the wines or not. You'll get the discount code, and you're always welcome to join us. Uh, there are some other more generous opportunities. Um, I recently won a couple of competitions with my chocolate chip cookies. I will tell you, I think my cookies may be the best I've had. I do appreciate others. I think once you try my cookie, you're going to tell me, damn. And I've never offered them out. Um, uh, but I've been working on that recipe since the pandemic. And I've been trying to make sure I could say that with confidence. And so I think you'll be very impressed with them. Next week are the Gold Nuggets of Spain, and the week after we've got 96, 97, and 98 point wines. Really trying to finish the year strong. There are a couple of weeks here I'll be off of Zoom as I travel, but I'll be thinking about you, and I'll be coming back to Zoom with even more stories. What just happened? I don't know. Let me get back into that. Let's see. Presenter. Ooh, yuck. I didn't do that. Let's go here. There we go. All right. Wine number two, Domaine Larue. This is a brand I really trust. I buy it every single year. In fact, I may at some points in time have several different SKUs um, from this producer. Great value proposition, real classic, imported by Kermit Lynch. This is just something that you can go to and depend on. The wine we're tasting is a Saint-Aubin. This is like the little soft thing you could say is, oh, it's like poor man's Puigny-Montrachet. It's the area next door. It's Puigny-Montrachet adjacent, and it is made Larue makes some Puigny Montrachet. This is a great wine. This is their home, though. This is what they do. This is, when you buy wines, you like to buy kind of their best effort. And Saint-Aubin is what they do. They are based in Saint-Aubin. And they they also own vineyards in Puigny, but their winery is in Saint-Aubin. And so they are really white wine specialists. And this is called Saint-Aubin Premier Cru. So it's an elevated single vineyard within the village of Saint-Aubin. It's called La Cortons, and here it is. This is the hill. It's like a Corton Charlemagne, not too far away. And it's the vineyards are always on a slope. They tend to go right up to the forest line. The forest line kind of represents the top of the hills. When you get to the top, the vines get a little too much sun, a little too ripe, a little too direct. So they know that it's between, kind of that bottom third and middle section and maybe close to the upper spot on the hill where the best fruit's going to come. And that's how Burgundy does it, on the slopes. And this is a look at the family, the Larue family. Here we're talking about, hard work, hand harvesting, and the Chardonnay fruit. We're looking at around $57, whereas a Puigny Montrachet Premier Cru is probably 125, with the regular Puigny now pressing up against 100, maybe 85 to 100. Now we can smell the use of wood barrel. Now we can feel a little bit different winemaking ideas. There's a little bit more sunshine here, a little bit more of that roundness, that flesh, that fat. It is not about making a stony mineral singular tone like that Chablis makes. It's about making something a little bit more round, different moment, different food. There is a little more golden color here, a little exposure to air through the wood barrel. Our vintage. I didn't spend much time talking about the Chablis vintage. I'll go back to it. But this is 2020. 2020s are pretty exciting wines, one of the hot, warmest vintages of all time. Um, and the wines ended up being, I mean, with the heat really impacted total yield. It increased the richness of the wines. Didn't exaggerate the alcohols. These guys keep it really restrained. Says 13%. So they're going to pick to make 13% wines. Maybe it's 13 and a half by the time it gets to America. Who knows? But it is, they're picking pretty early on and making it in this style. And you've got that creamy texture. It's very much like a Puigny, and got that roundness and richness to carry it with some different foods. The Chablis, the plain seafood, the oysters, sashimi, things very light, very delicate. Here you're talking about roasted chicken, um, you know, fish, skin on, pan fried, maybe some seared scallops, with some mashed potatoes. I think it's an excellent bottle of Saint-Aubin. I think it's a really in a really beautiful spot. I think the 22s are just arriving now. 2020 is a very good, but a warmer vintage. I think it's a vintage that almost allows you to drink it a little sooner and have a little bit more oomph to it. 2021 in Burgundy, a really cold vintage, more challenging vintage. Wines are a little bit more austere and maybe need a little bit more time, may not ever have quite the oomph of a 2020. 19 is a great vintage. 18 is very much like 2020. And you can go all the way back and just kind of make little subtle comments. I think the best vintage in the past 10 years is probably the 2014, but it's always easy to say that because the wine's now 10 years old and everyone's like, oh, the 14s are amazing. When they review Burgundy, they get it wrong all the time. They're like, oh, these wines, I don't know if they're going to make it. I don't know what. And sure enough, 10 years later, they're magic. They're magic. I do not remember anyone in 14 saying, 14 is going to be the vintage of the decade. No, it did not exist. And here we all are now kind of saying, okay, 14 wins. So these wines really do like time. Being able to buy 2020s kind of lets you skirt time. This wine doesn't really need any more time, but this has got 10 years ageability in the bottle. And Saint-Aubin probably wants you to drink it a little faster than uh, say Puini, but because it's Premier Cru, it's really a better selection, and it's worth a few more bucks. So I like Saint-Aubin Premier Crus, and that's they're very good values, and that's what I'm looking for in this particular selection. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Back into our slideshow. We'll continue. And if any of you have any questions, comments, tasting notes, put them in that chat. Let's talk about it. Let's ask some questions. Oh, no, I don't see you guys looking at my slideshow. So let me share it again. Here we go. We'll move into wine number 3. So much going on in the world where it's September 25th already. The year's starting to really click by here. We've got so much coming up. The future of mankind, just a few months away. We've got some really interesting parallel events in our world. We're taking a group to Argentina next month, and we're taking a group to Barolo in December. So really excited about all that travel. It's going to be a little crazy. I see some really great. Yes, we are in harvest. That is correct. Harvest is actually kicking butt. From what I hear, people really like what they're getting out of 2024. And that's on top of what people will call one of the great vintages of all time, 23. Surly and stirring, absolutely, Peter, on that Chardonnay. Barrel fermented, surly on top of the lees, the yeast down at the bottom of the bottle. Lots of stirring gives you that creamy texture, really promotes texture. And they use that little wand inside the barrel, give it that added time, added texture, keeping the yeast alive and moving around inside the barrel, and then pulling it off when they're done, when it's given it what it's got and the yeast starts to put off an aroma that they want to keep away from the wine, that's when they'll pull it off there. Kent, did you say crushed peanuts? That's a cool note.
Yeah, the peanuts for the Saint-Aubin.
Yeah, that's a cool note. I found the meeting chat, and there's a lot of good comments in here, so thank you. I'm just reading up on them now. If I didn't mention your name before, I now see it, and thank you all for the comments. Yeah, back to Peter. Peter, thanks for joining us. It's been a while. The value proposition that Chablis gives you is pretty exceptional. I think, though, that inside of Burgundy, a brand like the Larue and Saint-Aubin is, another value proposition compared to, say, Puigny or Chassagne or Meursault. Those wines are much more expensive. And, there's a different wine for every moment. We're going to go to a basic Pinot Noir made by a really good producer. This is Régis Bouvier. There is also a brand called René Bouvier, and they're basically the same wines. The Bouvier family makes Régis Bouvier for Kermit Lynch, and René Bouvier is the next. It's either the senior or the son. I can't keep them straight. Which one's Régis? Which one's René? But I think René is the son, and so they're working together and they're making these wines together. Very little differences between the wines, but very different importers, and they end up in different places, but they are made in the same chai. Same fruit, same family. We are up near Marcenay at the top of the Côte de Nuit, right below Dijon. Yeah, Fisson, Gevrey-Chambertin, Moët-Saint-Denis. As these towns are really close together as you travel up and down the highway, um, minutes apart, and sometimes really almost grow into each other. As there's no fences or lines necessarily dividing the appellations, there might be some vineyards with some close, some smaller walled-in vineyards, but the appellation lines are, you kind of have to know where they are. Peter, thanks for the generous comments. Peter saying nice spice and fresh cherries. I believe that good Burgundy winemakers don't know how to make bad wines. Therefore, basic Burgundy Blanc and Rouge from great producers are good and are good value. And I like that comment. I think it's you're not going to see anyone go too far outside of the lines. Although today we're going to taste a wine from the Lumpp family, and they're going to test some ideas, but everything else is kind of done in a very similar kind of, this is the way we do it in Burgundy type of a style, and Bouvier really hits that. Here he is. And these cellars are beautiful, old bent, often made out of brick or stone, and they're typically underground, um, and cool, dark. They even have the aromas of mushroomy old wine and stuff.
It's all white.
Oh, was that a question?
Yeah, I wrote down white.
Okay, because it looks like a
Oh,
huge
hey, Kent, I'm going to
cloud when
mute
it's
you.
on.
Okay, here we go. So described as a fresh, lively Pinot with pretty raspberry and red currant. I'm going to get this in my nose now. I think the color and the richness also kind of speak to the quality that Bouvier's accomplished. This wine doesn't look thin or weak. It is really a nice presentation. Or we have the 19, which is Showing off a lot of kind of tart cherry. Very good fruit concentration. Um, I think it's a little bitter. Love that nose. This classic, lots of the clove and classic signature Pinot Noir elements there. That there's almost a little bit of bitterness that I'm getting. When you're picking, when you're making wines that kind of come in around 13% alcohol, they're not going to have that plus sweetness that we can feel and taste in say a California wine. This wine really leans into that old school Burgundy, slightly underripe, um, a little edgy, and its job is to kind of slice through the food. A lot of fat food, by the way, lots of game, lots of really some delicious textures and cuisine. Um, One of my favorite things, of course, to do is when I get to Burgundy, besides drink wine, is to eat and love some of the classic dishes. Don't get a lot of fish in Burgundy, um, although there is some brought into the restaurants, but you do see just amazing bird and lamb and different pieces of beef. Um, I can't remember having pork, but I'm sure that pork is part of that equation as well. Um, Especially when you get into, some of the old school dishes with some of the little pieces of charcut or sausage. Um, Classic little village here. This is Marcinay. This is, you're up in the vineyards, the little towns down below. Marcinay is kind of a little less traveled. Many tourists even visit Marcinay. Um, it's a little further away from Beaune, but very close to Dijon. Yeah, Natalie, I like that. It does, the bitterness in this wine does have kind of like a high cacao, dark chocolate kind of a bitterness. Duck, thank you, Kristen. Oh yes, duck. Hmm. The best dish I ate in the past year was actually in Beaujolais, and it was a slice of duck breast with beef sauce. If I showed you the picture, you would all get very hungry. It was magnificent. The restaurant's called Le Cep, and it is in Fleury, I believe, in Beaujolais. Gotta hit it. And by the way, eating at a great Michelin, it was like a Michelin 1 star in Fleury for lunch. I think the prefix menu was like 5 courses and was about $60. It was insane. So good. This wine, these wines fight hard. $28 for a really nice class. I mean, really tough to make a bottle of wine for $28 anywhere. And they make something here that's got some charm, really good vintage character, good quality, reputable producer. Again, this is a second producer in a row that's imported by uh, Kermit Lynch. Yeah, very spicy. A lot of those brown spices. Pinot Noir's got that silkiness. So good with food, and not going to go wrong with this wine. This wine can go with so many different things. Kristen, thank you for reminding me of the duck. That's one of my favorite things. Okay. Mm. Great. Any more questions or comments? Feedback? We're going to climb the ladder now. This is the base level Pinot Noir, but a good one. Producers reputable, but not one of those where the small amount of wine that they make gets gobbled up in days, and that's when they start to, take some price. And a place like our Chablis producer, those wines are, you literally get to buy it once a year and it's gone and go back for more. It's not there. So every wine producer wants to see that happen to them. And I think they worked very, very well. Yeah, Peter, I believe there is a small amount of stem in this wine, and that's what kind of came along. I hope you're still on the Régis Bouvier. I think that's what's accenting this wine. Let me click in and see if they mention it, but I don't recall reading that. I've got it here in the tasting note. Yeah, it's not a lot of detail here. But I do believe there's a small amount of stem. And in Marsanne, there's a couple producers I love from Marsanne. And if you look into my wine store, Marsanne up near Gevrey-Chambertin, pretty good neighborhood. You can get, this is the Value Village up there. Look, I carry kind of a ridiculous collection of Marsanne. Um, this one's Gevrey Old Vines, but they also make wine in Marsanne. I just searched Marsanne and found a couple of these here, but Joseph Roti is one of my marquee producers, and his Marsanne, really good deal. His Gevrey-Chambertin Vigne is one of my favorite wines as well, and those are $150 a bottle. So this is kind of the Value Village nearby. Here's another Bouvier wine, also Marsanne elevated, same price as Roti, so kind of shows you a little bit of what's going on. There's a white Marsanne Blanc from Régis Bouvier as well on the website. So I've probably too many SKUs in Marsanne, but this is a good place, and I like to drink in Marsanne. There we go. Let's move on to our next wine. It's in my glass, wine number 4. This is the François Lumpp, and this is kind of a famous producer of a different style. Um, I don't know that anyone gets the extraction that François Lumpp gets. This is a third wine in a row from Kerman Lynch, and Kerman Lynch is a specialist in this area. So I've always really enjoyed these wines. The 2018 we have a particularly large amount of, so I wanted to make sure we give it a taste and see where it's at in its evolution. But again, this is from Givry, not Gevrey. Givry's up here. Givry's down here in the Côte de Chalonnaise, and it's kind of the odd person out on our tasting today. I said everything would be in the Côte d'Or. I lied. This is down below the Côte d'Or in Givry, and there aren't a lot of producers of like, oh, from Givry, I like this person, this person, and this person. I think François Lumpp is kind of like the Givry producer. And he hasn't been around all that long, just since the 1970s. Um, but they were growers. They sold a lot of their fruit for generations. He got in the business of making some wine. and does a really high tier job. A beautiful state-of-the-art facility, making some really dark and wonderful Givry wines. 92 points from James Suckling. Lots of ripe blackberry. That's a good way to start it off. This pushes the borders. This isn't what you would see historically from a lot of other places. This producer just kind of stands out like a little bit of a nail in the board that's sticking up a little bit. This producer, Lumpp, is this way. Definitely pushing the ripeness levels, going towards those blue and black fruits. You got some richer soils in Givry, a little bit more vigor. And so he's really keeping yield small, keeping his berry size small, and exaggerating some of the characteristics, and doing it at kind of a value proposition for Burgundy. You could get a lot of wine from this producer for a really reasonable price. Uh, La Vin Rouge is, or Vine Rouge, Vin, right? Vin Rouge, yeah. Is Premier Cru in stature. So $70-ish, kind of the normal price for this producer. And we are at 62.95. I'll be interested to hear how this one stacks up at the end of the tasting to see what you think of it. Cherries, chocolate. I like that, Kent. I like the kind of there's a lot of interesting elements in the nose, a lot of complexity. Um, Anything from like a burnt matchstick. There's some different type of stoniness. Maybe it's granite or schist, included with some of the typical characteristics of Burgundy. I think Givry does have some added dimensions of stone and some darker soils. There's also just some elevated level of extraction, so that's where you're getting some of that added tannin, some of that bitter chocolate. Because they're pressing it for color and ripeness and fruit concentration. I don't think there's any stem inclusion here because the stems would work counteractive to those goals and targets. Um, so those are my notes here, but something very generous and very texturally pleasing, wonderful nose complexity. I think this is a winner for especially if you're kind of in the New World Pinot Noir world. I think this is a really an easier uh, access wine to Burgundy, and I think a lot of people really enjoy it. And plus, it just carries you into even a little different type of food. That's, there for me, there's no favorite. It's more like, what am I drinking with, and what am I eating with it? And so there's different answers to those questions. We'll comment more as we continue the tasting. We can refer back here to wine number 4 as we go into number 5. Pierre Guillemot, This is Savigny, Savigny-le-Beaune, but this is their premier cru called Les Jarrons. Savigny-le-Beaune is really close to Beaune, actual Beaune. There's Beaune right there. And you just drive up into the hill and boom, you're there. And that's what I got to do. I went and visited the Guillemot family. And 8 generations. This is a really hardworking family, making some beautiful wines, building their reputation. They own some very serious vineyards in different parts of Burgundy, but they make their wines in Savigny-le-Beaune, and they have this wonderful old school cellar. I was welcomed by the current generation, the current winemaker, and we tasted through a lot of different things. And this is always one of my favorites that they make, Les Jarrons. This is 93 points by Parker, and Parker describes it as richer and fleshier than their Noir, which is another premier cru from Savigny-le-Beaune. The 2019 Les Jarrons delivers an inviting bouquet of raspberries, plums, candied peel, and spices, medium to full body, fleshy and nicely concentrated. It's framed by succulent acids and powdery tannins. I think just to sum that up in a couple of words, I just think that this is just truly a wonderful elevated classic. And if you were going out for a meal, this would represent just a special wine on the menu for a very good price. These wines are such a good deal. That nose is just taken off, and that orange peel. Um, that's really, yeah, that's a really cool note there. Whoa, that's super complicated and fun. A little bit more earth, coming back to earth from, kind of leaving more into that fruit-oriented Lumpp wine. This is really, this guy is like so passionate about being classic. He wants to preserve what his family's been doing for generations, make Papa and Grandpa proud, and they've got the next generation in the stroller. $53. This is a 19er. I don't have much of this, but I might have another vintage on the website. What ends up happening with this producer, kind of, it's a very good, reputable producer. And I'm pretty sure this wine's ripe just to disappear now, like the prior vintages. But somebody will come in and just clean me out. They'll buy everything we got. And then the next case will come in, and it takes a year or so because these wines need some time. And I'm sure if when I go in to buy it, I'll be buying the 21 or the 22. Because Sauvigny-le-Beaune is closer to Beaune, and Beaune is a little cooler than Dijon. The further north you go, the warmer it gets. These wines don't push that ripeness as much. They are a little gentler, prettier, maybe even a little more elevated in acidity, which makes them even more interesting with food. But there's a depth and a power and there's elevated marks here that tell you it's from a better vineyard. Premier Cru is saying a lot, and the price point is just too good to be true. The classic dish is beef bourguignon, of course, and almost any winery you go to, that would be on repeat, as a dish. And this, you can almost smell some of the stewed meats in the nose of this wine, the red wine reduction. Very, very savory. See what other people are saying. Peter, you thought that was a little oxidized potentially? Are you speaking about the Savigny-Le Jarrons?
Yeah, I do. And I thought initially I got a little bit of oxidation out of it. But I think as I sip it a number of times, it just opens up. And to me, it's very much like a great classic Burgundy. The more I taste it, the more I like it. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I think it when we pour these on Monday morning, you're opening Burgundy, and you know that it's going to move from when you opened it to when you're going to serve it. You want to see the ride that it goes on, and this really did kind of start to express some of that citrus peel and explore some different things. And I think just if you just left it in a glass for even another 20 minutes or so, it'll keep kind of showing you some different things. These wines are very alive, made with the highest of ethos, and it's all about, again, about preserving the information that's coming out of the vineyard. And it's like this guy's cellar is like maybe even underneath some of the vineyard that we're talking about right now. Is so close to it, and this is what they do, and they're really important in Savigny-le-Beaune. That wine just makes me so hungry for good food. So ready to go to a French bistro right now. I saw some other comments.
Yeah, question for you.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead there, bud.
Yeah. Yeah, do you think there's by the way, I agree with all these comments about food. Do you think there's a sweet spot for time frame? Like this is a 2019, so we're looking at a 5-year-old Pinot. I was once told by Heidi, the winemaker at Mary Edwards, that for Russian River Valley Vineyard, Pinots like 5 years is like the time to look for. Anything like that for Burgundy, do you think?
I think it might be a little bit more vintage specific.
Yeah.
Sometimes the vintages give you like a more generous wine, so you can drink them sooner. Sometimes more more difficult vintages, maybe they are a little more austere in the beginning, but maybe have a lot longer run. I think 19 is pretty much a universal success as a Burgundy vintage. Wasn't too hot, wasn't too cold, very much a Goldilocks year. And I think that this hits that 5 to 10 year number. I rarely hear anyone tell me that a Premier Cru is too old when it's 10 years old. I just think that there's something special about that number. But I think this wine shows well now. So I would say between now and 10 years, this
Yeah.
is where to drink it.
But okay, thanks.
Ian, can I give a comment here?
Yeah, please.
So it's in the middle of harvest, and every day for harvest lunch, we open up fun wines with our crew. We opened up a 1992 Fest Parker Pinot Noir. from Santa Barbara County. And it was special because we opened that bottle of wine at our wedding in 1995.
Oh, amazing, Peter.
So it was had a little bit of age on it, right? So it just had like whatever that is, like 32 years on it. And it definitely showed it age. I've never seen a Pinot Noir that brown, but it still was alive. It was magic. It was magic drinking.
Oh, that's such a good story. And how are things at Amplos? You're still biodynamic?
Of course, organic, biodynamic, sustainable, certified. We are moving towards ROC, regenerative organic certification.
All right.
Things are good here. We are in about 4 hours from now, we are picking Pinot Noir Clone 115.
Wow. So a night harvest, midnight, huh?
Yeah, you got it. Want to join us?
I'll get in my car.
I'll see you there. Bring your headlamp.
I have one. Yeah. Big day tomorrow for me, Peter. So I'll have to hit you up next year. But I've got 14 days before I leave the country, and I got 10 events. I haven't even finished tapping down yet. So uh, I'm working hard. So Peter's harvesting in Santa Rita Hills. You've got some people asking Peter if they want to come and help you out. If they show up at midnight, is that a good idea?
Yeah, we love free labor.
Okay. Well, can you guys message each other on the app? Do I have that open so that you guys can talk to each other? I don't know if they allowed me to do that, but for those that are interested, you can send me a note. Excellent, excellent. So some really fun people on the Zoom tonight. Thank you guys so much for being here. It's great to have such an awesome audience and to be able to taste along with you guys. We're going to move into wine number 6. This is Lucien Boillot. We wanted to finish strong. This is a classic producer. It's kind of standing on the shoulders of giants. Hasn't been around that long as a Lucien Boillot, but the Boillot family's been around for a long time. We'll talk about that in a second, but we're back up there near Marcinay. We're in Gevrey-Chambertin. Let me make sure my notes are right. Yeah, okay, it's 2020. And so, parents had some property and through inheritance, they kind of moved it down through the food chain here, and they've been buying some vineyards and been able to work with some top talent in winemaking. And so they've got a really nice selection of vines between Volnay and Chambolle and Gevrey-Chambertin. So they're definitely playing in the wealthier parts of Burgundy. And this is their Gevrey. Here we are. In the town of Givry. If you're going to make a Gevrey-Chambertin village, you're probably going to be starting down on the flatlands and maybe a repleing, meaning you're making some Premier Cru up on the hill, and you might blend a little bit together to elevate your Gevrey-Chambertin. Maybe take your young vines from the hillside, keep them out of the Premier Cru, put them into the village. But you can see how they prune those things back. It's like mud down here on the base. This is what the vines look like probably just right after harvest. You don't see any fruit there anymore. Vines go from green to this beautiful red colors. We're at $90. This is the famous Gevrey-Chambertin, but this is their kind of their ambassador wine, working pretty hard here. A lot of older vines throughout their holdings, and some really prestigious winemaker a really prestigious winemaker, helping make this brand. Ghislaine Barthode is the name of the winemaker. $90 a bottle. Let's taste it. So, no apologies for the priors, but when you look at this glass and you turn it around, you're like, whoa, look, that thing's got some color. 2020, as I said before, pretty ripe, but what resulted are very low yields in a concentrated vintage. You saw a lot of very small berries. A good vintage, just warm, and things moved along pretty quickly. That nose is, that thing is wild and crazy. I need some help. I want to hear from you guys. Got to tame that thing down. It's going all over the place. Whole cherry, plum, fruit, succulent, fruit smack, fresh acidity, finish of fruit over tannin. Excellent. Thank you, Kent. Very dark, amazing nose, boysenberries. Yes, Peter. I get that kind of that fruit roll up of raspberry. It's pretty ripe. It's extravagant. That nose is, yeah, not jammy though. You're right, Stephanie. It's not. But there's no way this is 13% alcohol. It may say that. I'm spending a moment trying to find the alcohol. Sorry, maybe they knew they shouldn't say anything because they didn't. No, no, no. Oh, here it is. Back label this time. 13.5. Well, probably not. I'm at least 14.75 on the alcohol. This is what I do. I smell hundreds of wines and I guess the alcohols, and I'm pulling away from this glass, feeling that burn. But that doesn't matter, because this wine carries it. This wine's got the gusto to carry 14.75. It still has beautiful detail, concentration, fruit component. Mm, that mouth is wowsy. That's like chewing on cherry skins. And that just hits that hits the go button and on my tongue. I'm like, wow, it's slightly candied, not jammy, but there is a very I'm receiving the ripeness of this vintage, but they did a great job, and it is a delicious Gevrey, and at this price point, this is a wow wine. I mean, you brought this out at a table with wines that are 3 times, 10 times more expensive. This might knock them down because this thing is really pretty fun. And we opened some pretty crazy Burgundies around here. And I would love to put this up against something about 10 times its price point. It's young though. It's a 2020. And this wine, man, it's fruity now. So you can celebrate the fruitiness of it in its youth. But the test of time will be interesting here to see what this wine's like when it's 10 years old. And because it's an AOC, Gevrey, maybe it's more like 8 years old. That you kind of want to give it until it's that age. But man, I think it's going to be remarkable because it's already so delicious. Yeah, all types of tart berries for sure. It's almost got, some pastry and berries kind of a thing going without sweetness, but that's the ripeness level that we're playing at. And I'd love to have that again with some great meal. I could see, that the sauce would have to kind of be in line with this almost compote type of a ripeness level. What I like is that it's ripe and it's rich, but it's not pruny, and it's at least not yet, or maybe it will someday, but it's not raisin and prune. It's still in that nice spectrum of delicious dark cherry, blackberry, blueberry, boysenberry, and we've left the red fruit spectrum. It's definitely in the black and the blue, but it's not pruny. Yeah, Peter, you agree with me on the 14.5 plus, huh? Well, that's those are fun wines. Anytime we can taste some good Burgundy, and I like the, put it in context by moving through the different price points and appreciating the place. We do this at our dinners. We do these crazy dinners. Kent has been a guest at many of them where we taste, 10, 12, 15 of some of the greatest Burgundies ever made. And you taste them next to each other. And it really kind of gives you perspective that if you just open a single bottle of wine or have a single glass of wine, you don't really gain. And to see what the vintage is representing and the place. I mean, we're just kind of teasing you with only 6 jars tonight. The Burgundy is a very interesting marketplace, but I wanted to show, the Marquis Gevrey-Chambertin. Was able to keep the price point of this tasting very much in line because we didn't get too extravagant, because Burgundy can get extravagant in a hurry. We have some of those wines, but I buy what I can afford to buy for the store, and if I got too lost in that world, it could be a very challenging environment for me financially. So I keep a nice mixture of some of the superstars and some of the values. And what we've been able to do with the store is really kind of think of it like I'm building a wine program at a really good restaurant. And you want to have kind of a gradual price ascension as if you went into Burgundy in France, and we could take you through the price points and climb and see some different stuff. So I want it to be thought of like a wine list, and then you just kind of find a price point where you want to go, and you're going to get what you pay for. The producers I'm buying, and some of them are really, really special, and some of them are pretty rare. And, those that know Pierre-Yves Cologne Moret, you'll find them on my website. Dugas P from 16 and Lucien Lemoyne and some others. These things get expensive. They start to pop, they start to jump. And, all of a sudden you go from a $100 bottle to 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 and up. So can get expensive in a hurry. Burgundy is special that way.
Really awesome lineup, Ian. Thank you.
Thanks, Thomas. Great to
Yep.
see you, man.
Yeah, equally. Take care.
Thank you. Go Royals. Go Dodgers.
Royals.
Good
Night, Ian.
night, Kent. Thanks, buddy. I'll see you soon. Petrus is almost sold out.